Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us as we present our webinar on driving forest roads for snowmobiles. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome you to our virtual workshop this evening. Our webinar is just beginning at 2 minutes after 7. I would like to kindly remind you or just notify you that if you do have questions during the webinar, you can use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions, and our presenter will be able to answer them for you. They will be answered throughout the webinar. You can also use the chat panel. Again, the button is at the bottom of your screen for any commentary that you wish to provide or to ask any technical questions if you're having any difficulties with accessing the material in tonight's workshop. The recording as well as reference material will be emailed to you after the webinar. A little bit about Workplace Safety North. Thank you for joining us. We are one of 4 sector-based health and safety associations in Ontario, and we are the only one headquartered in the North. Workplace Safety North provides province-wide government-approved workplace health and safety services for mining and forest product sectors, as well as for businesses and communities across Northern Ontario. We're very happy to support you. With health and safety specialists located across all of the regions in our beautiful province, WSN and its legacy associations have been helping make Ontario workplaces safer for more than 100 years. I'd encourage you, if you are interested in more information, to please visit us at workplacesafetynorth.ca. I'd like to also take this opportunity to welcome our speaker for this evening. Our presenter is Monsieur André Bouchard. He is a health and safety specialist in prevention services with WSN, based out of Cochrane, and he's also an avid snowmobile enthusiast, which you will be hearing him speak to throughout our webinar this evening. Of course, here is some contact information for you. We would encourage you to contact us with any of your health and safety questions by reaching out to us either at our toll-free number as well as our local number. You can also email any inquiries that you have to info@workplacesafetynorth.ca, and again, feel free to visit our website at any time. We do also have a series of social media that you can use or that you can access through any of the handles that you see in the blue speech bubble to the right. Now, of course, we couldn't have made this webinar as well as our Safe Driving on Forest Roads comprehensive course possible without the help of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and the Implementation Committee that you notice on this slide. So this is definitely a joint effort, and we hope that you learn a lot about safe driving on forest roads when it comes to snowmobiling in this webinar. I believe that this is the point, Andre, where I turn it over to you. Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiana. So why we're here this evening, actually. Just to begin, forest access roads are considered highways under the Highway Traffic Act, and all regular highway rules apply. So as an overview, during the 2016-17 season, the Ontario Ministry of Transportation's annual report stated that 26 drivers and 2 passengers were killed in snowmobile collisions, and almost 200 people, including drivers, passengers, and pedestrians, were also injured. So today we're going to take a look at tips for all aspects of driving safely on forestry roads. We're going to also look at PPE, so personal protective equipment, how to perform a circle check to make sure that you have everything that you need. We'll talk about safe driving practices, how to load and unload your snowmobile from a truck or trailer.
So foresters in Ontario are proud of the forest management, but one of the things that we care deeply about and a lot of partners care deeply about is that those same forests and forest roads are safe to travel on. Yeah, I'm Mike Maxfield with Resolute Forest Products here in Thunder Bay. I'm a forester here, and I'm happy to tell you about an exciting project to develop safe driver training for driving on forest roads. Whether we're a regular forest user or a forest worker or a professional driver, safe forest roads and safe drivers on those roads is our goal. Now, there's a lot of partners that have come together on this project, the key ones being Workplace Safety North, SFI Inc., and the Central Canada SFI Committee. So Sustainable Forestry Initiative has stepped up to provide funding and a grant with the understanding that part of responsible forestry is using best management practices with respect to driving and road use. Having an awareness of the forest road hazards and being able to put in place driving practices that are going to address those hazards so that driving is safe is important to all of us. The training will be rolled out in late 2019 and then online training available in 2020.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about the objectives for this session here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is snowmobile incidents. We'll talk about legislation for snowmobiles. We'll discuss the appropriate PPE that you would need. Again, we'll talk about circle checks. We'll discuss safe driving practices and appropriate training for snowmobile users. We'll describe the proper loading and offloading of transporting techniques for snowmobiles, like we mentioned earlier, off your trailers or in the back of your pickups. And we'll talk about some of the issues along that can happen as far as health and safety dangers as well. So before we begin, we'll get into the legal definitions here. So legislation sets out legal definitions that apply to forestry roads. So these definitions are taken from the Highway Traffic Act, Section 1. So in there, it states that a highway is any road intended for or available for use by the general public for the passage of vehicles. When you talk about motor vehicles, so these includes vehicles propelled or driven otherwise than by muscular power. And then when we talk about vehicles, this includes a motor vehicle, trailer, road building machine, bicycle, and any vehicle drawn, propelled, or driven by any kind of power, including muscular, but does not include a snowmobile. So there are thousands of kilometers of forest roads in the province, and they are not marked on any Ontario map, but they are mapped by the forest license holders and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. A driver should obtain a map and be aware of his or her location, possible hazards, and destinations when traveling on forest roads. So some of the issues that we commonly see is that not all forest roads are built to common or provincial highway standards when constructed on Crown land. They aren't paved and sometimes not wide enough for two vehicles to safely pass one another. Encroachment of vegetation or snowbanks in this case on the sides of the roads can also be an issue. Road surfaces are rougher, curves are tighter, and grades are a lot steeper than what we're used to on our provincial roads. Corners are not banked, also causing tire grip, being doubtful when traveling on gravel, loose rocks, dirt, especially through water, mud, snow, and ice. There's the constant threat of a sudden encounter with major obstacle, such as a washout, a boulder, a spill load of logs, or a large wild animal, not to mention a loaded log truck traveling at 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. Fallen trees, dense clouds of dust, fog, or snow can also be an issue. The other fact to keep in mind is that there's no police or emergency services nearby. So if something does happen, it might take quite a while to get some help. The speed limit is not usually posted, and if it is, people tend to speed quite a bit on these forestry roads as well. Aside from log trucks, other heavy equipment such as graders, bulldozers, and mechanical harvesters use these roads. While traveling, drivers may also suddenly encounter hunters, anglers, campers, bikers, and snowmobilers. Communication can be difficult, with cell phone may not work, so we might not have coverage. Road signage conveys important information about radio usage, road condition, some hazards, bridge crossings, potential washouts, and active logging operations, grader operations, and road work. So we have to take all these considerations in mind when we think about driving down the forestry roads. So some of the hazards that you may encounter. So even with well-designed roads, the effect of weather, heavy traffic, years of service, and limited maintenance will cause the road to deteriorate and become more hazardous to drive. So these hazards include large rocks that must be avoided to keep the vehicle under control, soft or crumbling shoulders, so these leave less room to pull over or pass. Soft shoulders are not suitable for traveling on and can lead to rollovers, as you can see in the picture to the bottom right. Washouts of culverts or part of a culvert can create large holes in the road. Washouts can occur without warning and sometimes they are hidden. Pooled water or mud holes can hide rocks, sticks, or cause the vehicle to become stuck. And we never know how deep they are, so again, to be avoided if you can. Vegetation growth along the road causes blind corners and narrows the road as well. We talked about dust and snow hampering visibility, so allow proper room so that you can actually see if somebody's going to be braking in front of you or see different obstacles. Other drivers are sometimes unaware of special considerations of driving on forestry roads. So there's all kinds of people, sometimes, they just stop on the side to either look at something or, as you can see in some of the illustrations, the banked shoulders narrowing the road as they go as well. Another factor to consider is wildlife. So this can happen at any time. So in the north, we're all familiar, moose, bear, all kinds of things could be on the road, and sometimes they can jump right in front of you, so you always have to drive defensively. During active forest operations, so if you are driving down a logging road, logging equipment can partially or block a road completely. These are loud machines. They may not know that you're coming, so it's very important that you make your presence known. You'll also encounter large groups of vehicles that may be parked or blocking the road completely, so be cautious for that. And then there's the grader operator. So graders, they're creating windrows. They turn up larger stones and leave soft, loose surfaces. So it could either be a grader on the road, or if you're traveling down the snowmobile trail, it could be the groomer. So again, always be mindful of that. So snow removal operations, again, we mentioned that. And then there's changing conditions. So these are created by, spring thaw, freeze up, wind, fire, changing lighting conditions at dusk or dawn. So there's a lot of challenges and hazards when we talk about forestry roads that we need to be mindful of. So let's talk about avoiding those hazards. So some of the things that we can do. The first thing is always drive according to condition. Give yourself enough time to be in control, slow down, and if you're not sure, again, maybe it's not the best time to be driving down when there's a storm, so maybe pick your days if you can, look at the weather forecast. Always drive at a safe speed that gives you enough time to stop and avoid any hazards or obstacles on the road. So driving at a lower speed will give time to deal with the obstacles and the road, also the unexpected. So any washboarding, loose surfaces, encountering grading operations or anything else. When we talk about a lot of these incidents in the logging roads, one of the biggest factor is always comes down to speed. If the drivers would have just even driven maybe 10, 15 kilometers slower, a lot of incidents could have been avoided. So speed is definitely a number one factor. The other thing to be aware of is if your tire gets caught in a soft low berm or that's left by the grader, slow down. Try not to hit the brakes or speed up. Don't do anything that's going to cause a jerk. So slow down and slowly steer back onto the road. If you happen to hit a soft shoulder, again, the best thing is just let off the gas, move slowly and smoothly back on the road. Respect the signs as well. Try to look at the signs and what they're saying. They're warning you of the hazards that are upcoming. So they have important information. Communication is also important as well. So if you do happen to have a two-way radio, use it to call the kilometer markers or warn others of any hazards. So log truck companies, you'll see especially on active logging roads, they'll always be using the radios to warn other trucks of what's going on. If there is a snowmobile on the road or a hunter and that kind of stuff, they kind of help each other out that way. But again, you have to make yourself known. So these are some of the tips that you can kind of put in your back pocket. The other thing you have to watch out for is bridges. So bridges along forest roads are usually narrower than the roads themselves. So usually it's a one lane. So you have to be aware, and they'll tell you what side needs to yield, but at all costs, slow down. And if there's anybody coming on your side, wave them on, let them go. Bridges also have weight capacities, so ensure that the weight of your vehicle and whatever it is you're towing does not exceed that capacity. So as you can see in the pictures here, we kind of put some different signage and different crossings. Snowmobile crossings tend to be even narrower. They might just leave enough space for one snowmobile at a time. So again, slow down and proceed with caution. So next we'll talk about some precautions and safe driving habits in winter conditions. So roads in winter are narrower, sight lines can be reduced, and this is when communication is even more important. So we all know that snow hampers our visibility. So keep your lights on at all times, and not just the day running lights, but your actual like low beams, and sometimes your high beams might be needed. And slow down. Again, speeding is to be avoided at all times. The weather is cold and you're a long way from help, so pack your emergency kit and your communication device. So make sure that you have everything that you need to spend the night in case something happens. So your visibility is decreased, so it's harder for other vehicles or drivers to see you as well. So every so now and then, pull over when it's safe to do so, and make sure that your tail lights aren't covered and your tailgate's not packed full of snow, so that if you do hit the brakes, people can actually see it. So keep your lights clear at all times. Again, reduce your speed. So this allows you more time to react into a developing situation. Stopping distances will increase, so allow for it. Leave more space between you and other vehicles, so no tailgating. Roads with decreased road width will decrease with snow and snowbanks, like we mentioned earlier, and you can see in the picture on the bottom right. So as the grader passes, unfortunately, this is something that happens. They don't have any room to put the snow, so it will get narrower and narrower. So lastly, be aware of icy and packed snow conditions in slippery surfaces and around corners. Your vehicle should be reliable and mechanically sound and well maintained at all times. Okay, so make sure that you have plenty of maybe spare gas, oil, and different things like that as well in your kits. So distracted driving. So distracted driving is any activity that diverts your attention from driving. So this includes talking or texting on your phone, eating or drinking that Tim Hortons coffee, talking to people in your vehicle, fiddling with the stereo, entertainments or navigation systems, or anything that takes your attention from the task of driving. So in Ontario, since the year 2000, deaths related to distracted driving have doubled. A person is injured from distracted driving every 30 minutes. A driver using a phone is 4 times more likely to crash than a driver who's focused on the road. Okay, as a reminder, it is illegal to use a phone other than a handheld wireless communication device to text or dial. The only exception to this is if you're calling 911 for help. It's also illegal to use a mobile device, such as a tablet, use screens unrelated to driving, such as watching a video. It's illegal to program a GPS. So in fact, just holding a phone or any other device while driving is against the law. This is just a reminder. So there's 3 types of distraction that we like to talk about. So as you can see on the screen, the first type is visual. So anything that takes your eyes off of the road is your number 1 distraction. You're always supposed to be focusing on where you're going, scanning the ditches for any wildlife, and anticipating whatever could be coming around the corner. The other type of distraction is a manual distraction. So anything taking your hands off of the wheel. Again, fiddling with the radio or reaching for something else in your car or your vehicle. And then thirdly, there's the cognitive distraction. So taking your mind off of driving, thinking of something else, or just anything that takes your mind away from your concentration. Okay, so we need to be aware. So next, you're going to see a quick little clip from Rick Mercer.
Multitasking. We all do it. Heck, I can sit on my couch, I can watch 5 channels and Google my brains out all at the same time. It's very impressive and it's safe. But multitasking while you're driving, using your cell phone or texting, that's not impressive. That's, what's the word I'm looking for here? Dumb. It's also illegal, so don't do it. Anything that takes your eyes off the road increases your chance of crashing. When it comes to driving, it's eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, my friends. It's the law.
Yeah. So in this slide here, we're just looking at this picture here before we click any to go forward. As you can see, there's quite a few distractions ongoing here. So next we'll be talking about driver fatigue. So driver fatigue affects many aspects of driving, including general control of the vehicle and reaction time. So fatigue can be caused by not having enough sleep, driving when you're normally sleeping, so driving at night, driving with less than 7 hours of sleep. Time changes as well, like we just went through, might affect your sleep quality. So if you're a driver with passengers, you need to be alert and well rested before taking your driving responsibilities, and you need to remain focused. So some of the tips that we mentioned here is make sure that you eat a healthy diet, get enough sleep, plan your trip. It may take you longer to get there than you think, especially in winter conditions. So give yourself a little extra time. Drink plenty of water, eat healthy snacks, and avoid the sugary, fatty foods. Take regular breaks while driving. So at least every 2 hours, pull over somewhere and take a stretch. Learn to recognize the signs of drowsiness. When you start yawning or rubbing your eyes, it's time to open the windows, take a break, and move around a bit. Rest in a safe place, and try not to travel more than 10 hours per day. And be cognizant of any medications that you're taking, and make sure that they will not interfere with the operating heavy equipment or any vehicle. Be aware of your fatigue and adjust your driving as required. Okay. So impaired driving means operating a vehicle. So when we say vehicle, again, remember car, trucks, boats, snowmobiles, ATVs, while your ability to do so has been compromised by consuming either alcohol, drugs, or a combination of the two. And contrary to popular myth, driving after using cannabis is not safer than driving after drinking alcohol. We also talk about prescription drugs can also affect how you drive. So, driving under the influence will affect your decision-making abilities and your ability to judge distances or how to pay attention. So legal drugs such as opioid pain relievers taken by prescription or recreation can also affect how you control a vehicle. So people prescribed with these medications are told by their pharmacist not to operate any machine. So there's nothing different with operating a snow machine as well. So next we're going to talk about a few snowmobile incidents. So unfortunately, there have been incidents involving snowmobiles on forestry roads and some fatalities in the recent years. So 3 snowmobilers have been fatally injured after colliding with vehicles on forestry roads. In 2 of these fatalities, a snowmobile was crossing a forest road when it collided with an oncoming haul truck. The truck drivers were not physically injured, but one of them is on stress leave for several months. So as you can see on these images here, not much is left from the snow machine. That you can barely see anything of on the left-hand side. And again, looking on the right-hand side there, you see the snowmobile completely underneath their front end. So on one of these incidents, one of them happened in March 2017, and it was a 34-year-old man from Snarnia who was fatally injured. So he died after colliding with a logging truck on a bush road. So the Ontario Provincial Police reported that the deceased was traveling northbound along the road with a group of sledders, and he encountered a southbound logging truck in a curve. So they didn't see him coming, they turned the corner, and there the truck was there. So the first snowmobiler navigated the curve safely, but the second one crossed in front of the truck. The truck driver tried to avoid the collision, but the sled collided with the trailer, and the snowmobiler was transported to hospital where he was pronounced dead. So again, 34 years old, from Southern Ontario. And unfortunately, maybe not related to logging, but we all hear about snowmobilers, falling through ice, early December, sometimes even January, breaking through ice and collisions. And like we mentioned, all the fatalities that happen. So it is very hazardous. So legislation for snowmobilers, it's all covered in the Motorized Snow Vehicle Act. So under this act, it states that a helmet is required anytime you're operating a snow machine. It allows snow machines to cross highways at 90 degrees. So you can't ride along the side of the highway, but if you have to cross it, ensure that you cross it straight on at 90 degrees. It also states that a snowmobile can't be operated by a child under the age of 12. Operators must have a valid permit, so some type of license, driver's license or snowmobile license, and must have valid insurance. Operators who drive carelessly can be charged under this act. And we always encourage people to refer to the official MTO driver's handbook for more information. So next, we're going to look at PPE. So as you can see on the pictures here, ensure that you have a good helmet it's within date, and you're looking for that DOT, so that's the Department of Transportation approved helmet. Make sure that your visor is insulated in working condition. A lot of helmets have heated visors to ensure that your visibility stays clear while you're driving and that it doesn't fog up. You want to make sure that you're dressed warm so that you have a good snowmobile suit, including a good pair of boots, ski pants or snowmobile pants, thick jacket that'll keep you warm, and a good pair of snowmobile gloves or mitts, again, to keep your hands warm. Keep in mind, we always rely on our snow machines to keep us warm, because when you're sitting there and everything's going well, it's nice and toasty. But think about, if something were to happen, your engine seizes, you run out of gas, your hand warmers stop working. A lot of things could happen pretty quick. And if you're hours away from anyone, this is where things kind of get pretty critical about having the proper PPE. Okay, so always think worst case scenario. So next, you're going to see a quick video on snowmobile circle check.
So this really is all about safety. We're riding often high performance machines in often extreme situations. So it's very important to do a full walkabout with your snow machine before hitting the trails. Start by having a look underneath the tunnel to make sure that your track is tight. If you have studs, make sure that the studs are intact. Check your bogey wheels, check your suspension, make sure everything is intact. Many people never look inside their side panels, so they never know what it's actually supposed to look like. Have a look inside these panels before you ride so that you have a good idea of what's supposed to be happening in there. Check your fluid caps, check your belt tension, check your plugs, make sure they're tight. Make sure the side panel goes back on firmly. You don't want that flying off when you're riding. Check your front suspension. If your front suspension is not operating properly, it will affect handling of the machine and could lead to unsafe conditions. Check inside the second side panel. Again, make sure you know what it's supposed to look like. There are a ton of springs and connections in these side panels. Just make sure that everything is in tip-top shape inside those panels before you leave. Again, make sure the side panel is connected properly. And have a look underneath the other side of the tunnel. Again, make sure that your track is tight, your suspension is in shape, your bogey wheels are intact, and no studs are loose. Before you take off, start the machine. And most importantly, make sure your headlights are working and clear. And also check your tail light, make sure it's working and it's not obstructed by any snow or ice. Check your hand warmers, make sure they're working, and you're good to go. So here are the things that I always carry with me. I think a battery pack is really important. This will do two things for me. It'll charge my cell phone if it dies, and it'll also start my sled if the battery dies on the sled. Really small and compact, super important for safety. Multi-tool, so that you have screwdrivers, maybe a sharp blade. You never know what you're going to need to do. I always carry a cheap pair of gloves because when you're trying to work on your sled at 30 below, you need something on your hands, so I carry a dollar store pair of gloves. This can be used as either a tow strap or it can be wrapped around the clutch to start the snow machine. I carry hockey tape. Duct tape does not work at 30 below. Electrical tape does not work at 30 below. Hockey tape always works. You can use this to repair your sled. You can use this to repair gear, tears in your gear, even repair some suspension units with hockey tape. If you ride a two-stroke machine, always carry extra oil. If and when your machine starts to act up, it will burn excessive fuel, including oil. You should always have some extra oil with you if you're riding a two-stroke machine. In addition to screwdrivers, I keep a small pair of pliers with me, just an old pair, just for a little bit of leverage if you need to do some repairs. And bungee cords and zip ties are your best friend on the trails. So I always carry a slew of bungee cords and zip ties.
All right. So again, just to touch up on the snowmobile circle check. So great job on the video. Went through the one end of the machine to the other, and when you do your pre-trip or your circle check, we recommend having some type of pattern where you follow each time, and always remember to check your gas along with that. So we do have resources that we can make available as far as a documented circle check to kind of remind you if you're not used to doing it as well. Some snowmobile tips. So the speed limit for a snowmobile on Ontario Trail is 50 kilometers per hour. So we have to keep that in mind. And that's one thing that we find, even myself traveling in the Cochrane Trails here with the Polar Bear Riders, is that often people will tend to, bump it up to 70, 80 sometimes on stretches. But we always have to remember that the speed limit is actually 50 kilometers per hour. And if, anything over that is dangerous. So if you do need to stop for any reason to take a break or chat with your buddies, make sure that you do it in a safe area. Try to go off the trail if you can, and never in a curve or anywhere where there's oncoming traffic where they might not see you. So always stay in areas that are safe. One major concern is driving through lakes and rivers, like we mentioned earlier. So prior to traveling, always check local authorities. There are maps that you can get, or apps on your phone that are updated I think they're daily updated as far as they check with the local trails and the snowmobile clubs to tell you when the water crossings are open. So again, avoid trouble spots. We also recommend that you wear a snowmobile suit with flotation assistance as well. A lot of top line suits will have it's not like a life jacket, but kind of it'll help you, if you do happen to fall through, it'll help you float. We also recommend that you, if you do plan on crossing over ice or even winter roads that cross lakes, have a set of those spikes on yourself. You can wrap it around your arm, so if you do fall through, you have the spikes and they're attached to one another. They'll help you try to get out of the ice as well. So some of the safety equipment, if you guys can also write in the chat, just any other type of equipment or gear that you might want to bring. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that if you want to put that in the chat box. Yeah, you want to, something to light a fire. So definitely bring some matches, a battery pack. Yeah. I think we've all had the experiences where your phone, I don't know about you guys, but my iPhone, as soon as it gets cold out, it's like it's the worst enemy. So I always have a battery pack charged on my phone, and I keep it in an inside pocket, not an outside pocket of my jacket. Hot packs, yeah, for your mitts and boots, could be a lifesaver for sure. Yeah, hot hand pouches. Always throw a few in the backpack somewhere. Yeah, a map for your route for the day. Right on. So I see lighter pockets. Yeah, birch bark in a Ziploc bag. That's awesome. Yeah, an emergency tin blanket. Yeah, reflect the heat. Right on. So thanks everyone for that. So yeah, and your safety equipment, make sure that that's part of your circle check before you use it. So a lot of times we'll have a little, little pouch or a little duffel bag, and we'll kind of throw all kinds of things in there. We don't look at it for a year or so, and when you kind of take it out, everything is rusted. So make sure each season and a couple times during the season you go through it, make sure everything's good to go. So inspect everything before using, and make sure that everything is working, especially your flashlights and that kind of stuff, lighters and that. So some of the things that you guys mentioned and that we recommend is a toolkit. So most machines come with that, generic toolkit, but I often find that it's not really practical what's in there. So maybe consider going and get yourself an extra tools like we saw in the video that might become useful. So again, making sure you have the proper tools to change plugs or, to do an emergency repair job if you have to. Your operator's manual or your owner's manual should be accompanying the vehicle as well. And make sure you kind of go through it at least once a year. All of the safety tips that we talk about are all in the first, 5 to 10 pages of that manual. And it's a great refresher to go through that at least once a year. You guys mentioned, making sure you have a good pocket knife or a multi-tool. Gerbers are excellent for that, kind of an all-in-one tool. Make sure you have a working flashlight. Batteries are fresh, good to go. Good LED light as well, and that can signal SOS. You guys mentioned the maps, some GPS devices. Again, there's a lot of available apps out there, which are great. You don't need the cell signal for these apps. They use the GPS through your phone somehow, and they kind of tell you exactly where you are. So I've used them quite a bit. We also recommend some type of fire extinguisher. We're not talking about a big 5-pound extinguisher, but you can get just the small powdered ones, that can fit inside your sled. And in case something does catch on fire, you have some type of powder. And you can always use snow as well, but then everything gets wet. So we also recommend first aid kit. So some type of kit that includes things that, if Band-Aids are nice, but at the same time, if there is a collision or something, an issue with snowmobiles, you're going to need a bit things that more for trauma. So think about pads and some type of wrapping. So first aid kits are okay, but make sure that they're adequate. Means of communication. So if you can have some type of GPS locator or spot device or something that you can communicate, that would also be great. We actually talk about windshields. So if you can always opt out for the windshield, but we recommend having it there, especially if it's 30 below in Northern Ontario. Some people say they don't look cool, but they'll keep you warm. So put a windshield on your snow machine, make a huge difference. And some type of emergency survival kit, like that all-in-one kits are good, but make sure you go through them and make sure that whatever's in there is relevant. and that you can actually use it. So other recommended safety equipment, you guys mentioned waterproof matches. Think about a whistle or some type of flare device or to signal a visual aid. Bring spare fuel. If it's not for yourself, it'll probably be guaranteed for somebody else. At least if you do a lot of trail rides, every time, at least once a year, I see people, they either run out of gas or they got issues on the side of the trail. So we mentioned duct tape, but again, hockey tape is even better. So some type of tape that you can do quick repair jobs with. A signal mirror, some tow ropes or straps. Again, I think it was last year at the beginning of the season, I pulled somebody out. They were 20 kilometers out from Cochrane. The guy's motor was seized, so he was glad to see me drive by with my big VK there. So I was able to pull him back to his hotel. So a nice tow rope is good. And we talked about flares, and you might want to consider spare keys. If something does happen for some reason, you take your key out and you drop it in the snow and you can't find it. It may happen that you'll be thankful that you had a spare key in your pocket. So let's look at some safe driving practices next. So there are many safe driving practices, but the most important is proper speed. So we can't overemphasize this. Again, if you're having, if you do have passengers, make sure that your sled is equipped for the seat for the passenger, and that they have something to hold on to. So proper handholds and an appropriate backrest. With the handholds and the backrest, if something does happen, they're less likely to be thrown off the machine. So ensure that your machine is equipped for passengers and that everyone wears their helmet. So again, we talked about, so you need to have valid driver's license and a motorized snow vehicle license and insurance. You want to avoid hillside travel and steep grades as much as possible. Again, the risk of is tipping over and losing control of your machine. We always recommend that you stay on the established trails. That way you're not going into private property or areas where there may be obstacles such as rocks, boulders, or anything that could damage your machine. So staying on trails is the #1 thing to do. When traveling at night, again, go slower than normal at daytime speeds, and you're only able to see what you can with your lights. So ensure that your high beams work if they're equipped, and again, slow down. So do not ride alone, and have good radio cell phone communication. So as much as you can, use the buddy system, at least have another sledder with you, so that if something does happen, you have a way out. And like we mentioned, obviously no alcohol or recreational drug consumption before or while driving. No one should ever be smoking while driving. If you do have to smoke, we always recommend stopping in a safe location. Okay. Make sure that you keep both of your feet inside the footrest of the snow machine. Again, they'll stay warm, and at the same time, if you do happen to drive on the side of the trail, you won't catch a branch or something that can kind of throw you off the machine. If you're going to head into turns, we say slow down and lean into, try to keep the center of gravity low and lean into the turn, and always stay on your side. I don't know how many times, driving on the trails that you're going around the corner and guys are going way too fast and they're actually on your side. So again, always be cognizant of that people driving on your side coming at you maybe aren't as competent as they should be. So there's a lot of that going on. So when you do go up a hill, make sure that you slow down and you stand and lean up forward. Again, moving your center of gravity towards the machine. Avoid falling from behind. And then when you're going down the hill, slow down. Use gradual braking. Again, try to maintain control of your machine. And when going along a hillside, slow down and lean uphill. So the idea is to avoid tipping. You also want to recognize conditions ahead. So again, try to anticipate, if there's a curve, always anticipate that somebody is coming on the other side and they may be coming fast. So adjust your speed accordingly. Always anticipate for what could happen. Dress for the appropriate for the weather. So again, we talk about dressing in layers, having a good snowmobile suit that's wind resistant. Stop at all intersections and look both ways. So as you guys probably know, all the signs and the traffic signs for snowmobile trails are a lot smaller. Sometimes they get knocked over by other machines. So always anticipate they always have one or two signs warning you of a stop coming up ahead. So when you see that, start slowing down right away, and make sure that when you do cross, look both ways, and ensure it's safe to enter the intersection. Look at what type of intersection as well. Different, either if it's pavement or if it's a rail crossing, you might catch something, a car bite on your ski. So always make sure that what you're crossing is safe to cross. Obey all traffic signs on the roadways as well as on the trails. When sharing the road with larger vehicles, for example, trucks, give them the right of way. Okay. Again, keep to the right at all times. Okay. But especially on blind hills and corners. So always stay to your side and slow down. So you want to keep a safe distance behind other vehicles, and use those hand gestures. There are people on the trails here are pretty good as far as warning for how many snow machines are behind you. And if you're the last machine, there's hand gestures that you can do for that as well. So that's always a good safety tip. The other one that we like to talk about is do not attempt to pass slower vehicles unless the road or trail is in good condition, that it's wide enough, and that you can pass. And if you do have to pass, obviously always on the left. And before you approach somebody, just nice and slow. Make sure that they kind of see you on with their peripheral vision, and tell them their intent that you want to pass them. Most of the time, they'll just slow down and let you go. But avoid just barreling through somebody at a high speed, because then you'll just startle them, and chances are they'll get into an accident as well. So if you do have to pass, do so with extreme caution. So next, here we're talking about some of the safety tips for loading and unloading. So many spills do happen due to a machine tip over. You can go on YouTube and see all kinds of loading fails. And when I tell my participants at most of my courses is you don't want to be the next YouTube video when it comes to a guy trying to load a machine in the back of his pickup or on his trailer. So when you do load, it's the same as driving. So you should have all your PPE on, because a lot of incidences happen when you're actually trying to go up a ramp or down. And if it does tip over and you hit your head on the side of the tailgate or something, you want to be wearing your helmet. So it's the same as driving. Make sure you have all your PPE and that you're in control at all times. The safe driving practices that we described for uphill or downhill will apply to loading and offloading on ramps as well. So remember, maintaining safe your center of gravity.
John here from North Bay Cycle. We're going to be doing a quick demonstration on how to safely load and unload an ATV. First thing, you want to make sure that you're equipped with the proper PPE, safety glasses, gloves, and a properly fitting approved helmet. If your bike is equipped with a low range, you want to select low range to give you better control of your vehicle. On a unit equipped with park, you're going to select park. Otherwise, you're going to put your park brake on, and we recommend leaving the unit in gear. You always want to remove your key. And now we're going to be securing the ATV to the trailer. So you want to select a proper ratchet strap that's rated for the proper weight for your machine. And you want to choose a good location, something that's anchored well. You don't want to be hooking to your plastics. In this case, this unit, the racks are mounted right to the frame. They're very solid. It's a perfect location. You want to make sure you're going somewhere on your trailer where your straps are not going to slip. You want to compress your suspension. And we're going to go to the opposite corner. Once again, this rack is securely mounted to the frame of the machine. Again, compress your suspension, make sure the machine is secured. We're securing the last corner now. So once again, you want to make sure your suspension is compressed on all 4 corners. The bike's not going to move. Secure all your loose ends of the straps. You don't want these blowing in the wind. And securing it in this fashion prevents it from movement in any direction. You've got all 4 angles covered. This one's a little bit loose from securing them. I want to just give her a couple more cranks, make sure it's good and tight. Okay, so now we're going to close the gate. On this particular trailer, the gate is secured to the trailer. If you're using ramps, you want to secure them to the trailer when you're loading so they don't kick out while the machine's loading. You want to securely anchor your pin, make sure your gate's secure. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Once again, making sure everything's secure. Now we're going to demonstrate unloading the ATV. Now you want to watch your gate. Some of them are very heavy. This one's an ultralight aluminum, weighs next to nothing. Want to watch your hands and your ratchet straps. They can catch your hands. Put on your helmet. So we're going to start the bike, release the park brake, and back it off the trailer. I personally like to stand while loading and unloading a bike. It gives you better balance and better control of the vehicle. And that's how you safely unload an ATV.
Okay, so similar to ATVs, there are some differences when you talk about snowmobiles, but as you can see in some of the illustrations that we have, there's a strap that goes to the back to 2 corners, and then a lot of the ATVs, or I should say snow machine trailers, will have either a pin that you can put right through to secure the skis. If not, the picture in the middle kind of has a strap going through the front skis as well. So what you're looking for is that the load cannot shift from the back or the side to side. When you're using tie downs, ensure to secure the load, ensure that the working load limit for the tie downs meet the actual weight of the load so you're not overloading your straps. So get proper straps. The tie downs are in good conditions with the proper attachment points. So make sure that what you're tying it to is strong enough to hold the load as well. So know the working load limit of what you're dealing with. You want to ensure that there's no loose items on the load itself. So if you're a snow machine, ensure that your cab is secured, and anything that's loose on there that you secure that as well. So a snowmobile is secured with 4 tie downs. So usually nylon straps with the binders, 1 tie down at each corner of the vehicle. So at this point, we've reached the end of the session. So if you guys have any questions or any comments.
Sounds to me like you've put together a very successful and comprehensive webinar on safe travel with regard to snowmobiling, Andre. Well done.
Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for participating.
Okay, well, this concludes tonight's webinar. Thank you again for joining us. If you do have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit our website at workplacesafetynorth.ca. Thank you again and have a good evening.